So if you're in the e-commerce space, you probably know brands like Movement, Daniel Wellington, and Vincero. The reason you know them is not because of their great products. I'm not saying their products are bad, but they're certainly not as good as brands like Seiko or Orient. But if you ask a young person, so let's say you have a 20-year-old, you ask them to choose between an Orient watch and a Daniel Wellington watch, they probably choose the Daniel Wellington watch. And the reason for that is because of their great marketing, specifically their great influencer marketing. So in this video, we're going to talk about influencer marketing on Instagram. Let's get started. So if you're doing influencer marketing, there are a couple of things you need to figure out. So first of all, how do you actually qualify an influencer? Because if you start working with influencers, you need good influencers that can represent your brand. So how do you actually qualify an influencer? So the first thing you need to look at is reach. How much reach do you want and how big do you need an influencer to be? There are two types of influencers. First of all, micro, and then you have macro influencers. So first, let's talk about a micro influencer. A micro influencer is an influencer with between 5 to 50,000 followers. Their audience is probably a lot more engaged because it's a very small audience and it's probably very niche. So it's a great type of influencer for brands with a very specific product or brands with a smaller marketing budget, because also the great thing about micro influencers is, they're a lot cheaper. Then let's look at macro influencers. So a macro influencer is an influencer with a lot more followers. So anywhere from 50,000, but usually if we talk about macro influencers, we talk about influencers with like 100,000 or 400,000 or even millions of followers. So they're pretty big influencers. The great thing about a macro influencer is that you get a lot of reach. The disadvantage of a macro influencer is that they're pretty expensive. And the other disadvantage is that sometimes the following is pretty broad. So if you really want to narrow down your targeting, a micro influencer might be a better idea. Okay, so the second thing you want to do is find out why the influencer is relevant, and even more importantly, if the influencer is relevant to your brand. Because, you can work with any influencer, but the influencer needs to be relevant to you, to your brand. And really try to narrow down your targeting, so make it as specific as possible. So to give you an example, let's say we take Daniel Wellington and we take Orient. Orient, I believe, doesn't have an Instagram marketing strategy at the moment, but let's take those two brands. Daniel Wellington is a fashion brand, it's very popular. Orient is an old mechanical watch maker. They make mechanical watches, so for example automatic watches, just like Rolex and Omega, but just at a lower price point. So if you take the two brands, so first of all, for Orient you would probably find like watch guys, so pages that are interested in watches, and and I don't mean fashion pages. I specifically mean watch pages. So people that are interested in mechanical watches, they want to see how watches are made, that sort of stuff. Well, with Daniel Wellington, a better audience would be guys or girls that are interested in fashion. So you would look at fashion pages or fashion influencers, because the big difference is that people that are interested in fashion probably like Daniel Wellington more, and people that are interested in mechanics and mechanical watches would like Orient more. So you would find different type of influencers for the same product, because they both make a watch, but you still need different influencers. Lastly, look at the relationship between the influencer and the followers, because a lot of influencers have very big pages, they have millions of followers, but the audience doesn't trust the influencer. So it's kind of worthless, because remember this: when you're doing influencer marketing, you're not just paying for the reach. Because if you want reach, just go do Google ads or Facebook ads. It's probably a lot cheaper. But if you're doing influencer marketing, you don't want reach, you want trust. because the reason you're paying an influencer is because they have followers, and those followers trust the influencer. And that's very important, and well, that's worth a lot of money. So find influencers where the followers really trust the influencer, because if they really trust them and the influencer promotes your product, the chance of the followers buying your product is a lot higher. So that's great. So now you know how to qualify an influencer, but how do you actually get an influencer? Because, well, that's probably even more important, because, well, if you don't know how to find them, you also can't qualify them. So how do you actually find someone? Well, the first way is, and this is probably one of the best ways, is look if there are any influencers that are following your e-commerce Instagram page at the moment. Because if influencers follow your page, they are probably interested in your product. So maybe there's a chance that if you just send them a product, they would already do a promotion, so you don't actually have to pay them something. And another great thing about influencers that follow you is, well, it's a lot easier to contact them, because if you send a random influencer a message, you don't appear in their inbox. They need to accept your message, and then they reply to it. But if an influencer follows you, you will go straight in their inbox, and you will be very easy. It will be very easy for the influencer to respond. So and well, the best thing, they're much more likely to do a promotion with a product they like than a product they don't like. And if they follow you, they probably like you. So that's great. So the second way to find influencers is using the drop-down menu in Instagram. So if you have a certain influencer, go to that influencer's page, and if you go to their bio and where it says follow, next to the button follow, it gives you a little button with a drop-down icon. And if you click on the icon, you will get a list of influencers that are similar to that specific influencer. So let's say you find an influencer you like to work with, just go to the profile, click on the drop-down menu, and Instagram will show you influencers that are similar to that specific influencer. So that's also a very good way, and probably one of the quickest ways to find new influencers. The drop-down menu is also one of the easiest ways to expand your influencer marketing, to scale it up. So if you're working with one influencer, you don't really need it, but let's say you want to work with 50 influencers, it's very easy. If you just click on the drop down icon, just go to the profiles, it will give you hundreds of profiles. You can write them down in an Excel sheet or on paper, and then you can contact them. So that's a great way to work with a lot of influencers and find them really quickly. The last way to find influencers, and this is also a very easy way, is look at your competitors. So write down, for example, like 5 competitors in your market, and go to their Instagram page and see if they work with any influencers. If they do, go to the influencer's profile, qualify them, look if they're a good fit for your brand, and then shoot them a message. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please leave a comment in the description. If you have any questions, you can also comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I upload these sort of videos daily. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.